As you know, autism is everywhere now, all around the world. That's nothing new. The severity of the issue and the lack of attention it receives hasn't changed at all, and the strain on families affected is only continuing to grow. And we didn't need to invite you here today to tell you that either. Today is about sharing ways to help close the gap for these families in need around the world, and there are literally millions of them wherever we go. We're here to work together on solutions to what has now become a global public health crisis, a crisis that is widely misunderstood and grossly underfunded. So that's why today's theme was Share a Vision, Shape a Future. Excuse me. The ultimate tragedy remains that for a family with autism, a life of despair, isolation, hopelessness is unnecessary. There's still no cure, but we know that these children can learn a lot. And there's a growing body of knowledge about how to treat autism at any stage or in any part of the spectrum, and how to improve the life of any child, no matter what their age or severity of their problem. And allow me to tell you a story about one boy that we've worked with, named James. He came to the center as a residential student when he was 4 years old, the youngest residential student in our history. And as difficult as it may seem to send such a young child away from home, his parents were faced with behaviors far too challenging to handle by themselves. More importantly, they understood that the longer they waited, the less likely it was that those behaviors could be changed. And I remember meeting with him, and I remember struggling with this myself, that this would be such a young kid to have. It would be an enormous responsibility. He'd be far from home. And I know they were taking a lot of heat from their extended family about making this decision. I also felt like it was the best hope that this child would ever have. So it was enormous pressure and responsibility, the kind of responsibility that I think leads some people would, maybe worry so much they'd lose their hair over it. But but not to make light of it, it was an enormously difficult decision for them and for us. And they went against all of their instincts and many of their other extended family members, understanding that there was nothing available, even where they lived near Manhattan at that time. This was about the year 2000. And, I know that we do really great work, and it could be life-changing for their son. And that was the bet that we all made together between James's family and myself in the center. Like most children we serve, he came with very persistent motor and vocal stereotypy, which is repetitive or ritualistic movements and sounds. They were almost nonstop, actually, and he was very non-compliant, particularly around sleeping in his room, bathing, and getting his hair cut, pretty much everything. And when he became non-compliant, he would often scream, cry, and throw himself on the floor, and behaviors that were far too difficult for his family to handle. But these behaviors had been the foundation of our work for 20 or more years before that. And for us, they were readily manageable, particularly with a child so young. At the center, we can help every child improve and reach his or her maximum potential. And some would lose their diagnosis, will lose their diagnosis as a function of the treatment that we administer. And 14 years later, we're a lot better at it than we were at the time. And especially young kids like James can make tremendous progress. But it does require intensive, highly personalized scientific treatment based on all of the principles of ABA. Our staff developed a behavioral program addressing the noncompliance and stereotypy that James had been displaying, and the results came swiftly. We saw improvements in all areas, including his challenging behaviors. Haircuts, which were truly a dreaded process for his family that required, when he initially came, 3 adults, became a positive experience. It ended with a trip to Dunkin' Donuts for 2 pink donuts. James' life while at the center was clearly improving, but at the center we want to create whole lives for our students whenever possible and for their families. Productive lives, bringing out every child's maximum human potential. And for James, we knew that this meant a return to his family in New York. And my motto for a few years at the time was, next year in Scarsdale. And we knew that it would mean more than just packing James up with his stuff and moving him home. How would he adjust to life away from the residents at the New England Center? How would he adjust to life in a new school without a lot of behavior analysts running around? And how would his family function together again? We carefully developed a program to help James acquire the skills he would need to succeed at home and in school. He moved from the center's residence to a local family as part of our teaching parent program. Rosemary Tierney, who is here with us today, was a lead teacher, and I hope you'll meet her if she's still here, was a lead teacher at the center when the position of teaching parent was posted. At the same time that she became a teaching parent, Rosemary was also completing her practicum in severe special needs in our Simmons program and was working in Southborough as an ABA tutor in the integrated preschool at the center. The plan called for James to attend a local public school in Rosemary's town where she was living, and he would have one-to-one teacher support from the New England Center. Now, Rosemary's responsibilities sound simple, but it was to make James a part of her family and at the same time to maintain data and help James complete all of his IEP goals that pertain to the skills outside of the classroom. He had a morning and evening routine, a homework schedule, and many hygiene routines. For over a year, Rosemary and her husband, Paul, opened their home to James. Her children, who were 9 and 11 at the time, welcomed the opportunity to have a younger brother, albeit one who was already taller than both of them. Even though they knew it was only temporary and part of a larger transition plan, they embraced James as a member of their family. With autism, we cannot predict how or when the next breakthrough is going to occur. What we do know is that every time we see a success like James, we see a cumulative effort of many, a shared vision for working with children with autism. Our work is done on a highly individual basis, but we're working hard to make sure that the power of that individual effort produces thousands more stories like James, and that everyone can get the same access to quality treatment and help. But it'll take more than our staff to do this, to make such a goal a reality. And we need the support of people like you who attended today and have been talking about the center and supporting it. And today you learned how you can be involved, and I hope realize that an impact on this problem is really possible, that we really are on the verge of having the materials, the ability, the know-how to really radically change the lives of many kids with autism everywhere in the world. And if you're not quite sold, I'd like to have someone help me close the deal, and I'd like you to meet James to talk about his experience since then. James.